Welcome to Magical Reawakening Radio. I'm your host, Megan, and today we are going to be talking about the Fool card. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about the Fool card today was because last episode I released, so that was the one that was connected to our full moon in Taurus. I released that on the 4th, and so it's really recent, but I wanted to make sure that was out before the full moon. And I talked about the full moon in Taurus. I talked about the tarot card connected to Taurus, which is the Hierophant. And then I talked a bunch about soul cards. So if you'd like to understand more about the Hierophant card or soul cards, I highly recommend listening to or watching that episode. Now, the reason that I want to talk about the Fool is because when we talk about soul cards are based on numerology, and the numerology of your birthday specifically. Now, when we look at that, that means that the card is going to be a number. It's going to be numbers 1 through 21 for your soul card. But the Fool is still a very important major arcana card. And so you might be wondering, well, why isn't that anyone's soul card? And I have a theory. Now, if we look at the Fool is card number 0, and this is intentional. Now, the Fool is our infinite possibilities, okay? And so when the Fool shows up, it is normally the card that reminds us that we can go ahead and take the leap into the things that we are wanting to do. And with it being 0, it is the reminder that we are the Fool. So while you have your major arcana that you're connected to through your soul card, and that kind of speaks to the lessons and the things that you that bring you back to yourself, like your soul purpose, that is the idea of the soul card, right? Where are we connecting into in the major arcana journey? The Fool, no one can be the Fool because no one can have their birthday add down to 0. And so that means that we are all also the Fool. The Fool is that possibility of us all. And so when it comes to the major arcana, what happens is we have the Fool card, and he is ready to jump off this cliff, right? He's looking up at the sky. He's ready to go. He's considering what he wants. He carries only this small bag on a wand on his back, and he is being flanked by this little white dog, right? The goal when the Fool takes the leap is then to journey through the major arcana. He travels through all of those cards 1 through 21 so that he can experience everything that they have to offer. He learns all the lessons along the way. And so that means that there's no need for anyone to add down to the Fool card because we're already the Fool. We are already traveling through the major arcana and learning the lessons along the way. And so when we look at the major arcana, it's so nice to actually remember that it is a journey through life's lessons. We are going from 1 to 2 to 3 because it's like, oh, here is the magician. The magician imagines and knows that they can create it. Here's the 2. The 2 is the high priestess. They know that they have the wisdom and this just ability to pull information out of what feels like nothingness and write down this wisdom to be shared, right? And so the Fool is learning along the way how to do all of these things and to grow. And then we spiral back through after we hit 21 and we get to the end of it all and we complete it with the world. We're coming back. The Fool then jumps again. And the cool thing about that is that you actually can go back to that jumping point anytime you want. 0 can be added at any point. We can add ourselves back to, oh, I feel like it's time to start again. Oh, I got off track. Cool. Let me go back and start again. And we know, because it's a spiral, and he has this bag, right? The bag's not empty. We never start over again without also taking the knowledge we already have with us, right? So being the Fool and stepping into the Fool is kind of that point of going, okay, I am trusting that I'm ready to do this thing again, and I am going to go. Okay? And so no matter what your soul card is, you are also the Fool in addition. And so that's why we embrace and embody all of the cards in that major arcana, because we are still traveling through everything. Every single card has a lesson for us to come back into ourselves and learn more from. Okay? And so I just always find it very amazing and interesting that we can't be the Fool as a soul card, because the Fool is everybody. And I love that for us. Now, when we look at the Fool, some key symbols to consider. Color is really important in the tarot, at least in the Smith Rider-Waite deck. I know not everybody connects to this deck, and sometimes it feels hard to actually feel like you're getting what you need out of it sometimes when people are just starting. But the reason why I still like to recommend this, as much as there are other decks that are beautiful and that you can connect to any deck that feels right for you. The really nice thing is that so many decks are based off of this deck, and Pamela Coleman Smith created this deck with high amounts of intention. And so the color behind the Fool is intentional. The Fool is going to jump because they believe in themselves. Yellow is connected to that solar plexus. So it's that idea that we are willing to shine bright and be ourselves. The Fool says, I know what's right for me. It is time to do this thing, right? And so the yellow background, the sky is yellow because it's a reminder of like, hey, tap into what you know to be true about you and how you want to show up out in the world, right? And so that yellow is so important. It shows up because we're ready. He's also wearing yellow boots, okay? He's standing in the truth of himself, being ready to take this leap. You may look at him from an outsider's perspective and go, he's just going to fall off this cliff. He doesn't know what he's doing. That's why he's considered the Fool. Because so often people look at somebody who is in their truth and they don't understand it because it's not their truth. And so they're like, oh, that's so silly. They're just going to jump off that cliff. They don't even know what's under there. They might, but you may not, because you can't see what it is that they're jumping into. And so the Fool has to be confident in themselves and in their choices, confident enough to say, I'm going to take the leap and know that the net is going to catch me. I'm going to take the leap because this is the next thing for me. And so the Fool is not foolish as in they don't know what's coming. They are the Fool because other people don't understand why it is they're doing what they're doing, but it's not for them to understand. It's for you, if you embody the Fool, to understand why you're doing it on some core level. Maybe we don't know it all mentally, but we can feel it in our bodies, right? We also have on the Fool, their tunic has a bunch of pomegranates on it. Now, pomegranates are the symbol of the underworld. It's the idea that they have walked through some shadows and they understand what those different levels are. And so again, when we go through this journey of deciding to jump, it's not without knowing that there will be some shadows, there will be some struggles, there will be some things that are difficult that we aren't quite sure about. When we go through the major arcana, we hit the Devil, where we're looking at what are we limiting ourselves with. We get the Tower, where things get shaken up. We hit Death, where we are willing to get rid of the things that are no longer serving us, right? all of these things come with their own shadows, and it's not that we need to shed the shadows, it's that we need to figure out how to integrate them. And so the Fool is willing to do the work that they know they need to do as they make this journey. That's why the pomegranates are on there. And then you can see they also have wheels. Okay, and so that looks at the Wheel of Fortune. Now the Wheel of Fortune tells us, okay, there are things you can control and there are things you can't control. And we will play with the things that we can control, because as we control those, it sends ripples out into the world, and then that helps mitigate the things that we may not have any control over or feel like we don't have any control over, right? There's both the things that we can make effort towards, and then there's the things that we just have to flow with and go, okay, I'm going to do the things I can do, and this will all figure itself out around me. Okay, and so the Fool is confident in that. They're confident in the fact that they will figure out the right steps to take as they take those steps. And then I mentioned this in our scary cards episode. The Fool holds a white rose in their hand. Now, roses tend to be about passion and about feeling excited about things. Roses have beautiful smell, but they also have thorns. So we have a flower that has both beauty, but also boundaries and protection for itself, right? And then white is all about our spirit and understanding that wisdom can come from trusting that we have spiritual wisdom within us, and spiritual wisdom can guide us. Okay. And so they're holding this rose as a reminder, like, I've got this. I have this ability to tap into this as I see it. And then you'll notice that because the sky is yellow, the sun here is actually white. So again, we're getting information from that spiritual knowing, that trusting of ourselves in co-creation with whatever divine guidance we know that we can tap into or that we choose to tap into. And the underlying of the Fool's tunic is also white. So again, they're clothing themselves in their trust of spirit. The other big color that's on here is green. Now, green is connected to our heart spaces. And so we're also seeing that there's a lot of green in this. So it's trusting that they're ready to be seen and do the things that make them light up, but also knowing in their heart that this is the journey that is one filled with love and filled with a desire to actually tap into that heart space as they go. This is not a journey that is not without tapping into the heart, because with the heart, then you're able to share and resonate with the things that feel connected to beauty, feel connected to love, feel like they know what they're doing. And so they are going through this all in love as well. And then there is also red. And so the red underneath and in the feather on his hat, we're looking at red as rootedness. So they're confident in themselves at the base level. They know that they're going to go through these challenges with the pomegranate. We know that we've got shadows and underworld, but also they're confident that they are who they are at their core, and they're willing to take that forward on this journey. And so the Fool is such an important card to actually pay attention to. Where are you when you're taking this leap into the abyss? Where are you as you want to move into this next phase of the journey? Are you going at it in a way that feels like you have everything you need? If you're feeling unsure about the leap, figure out where those little bits are that aren't quite resonating, that gets you back to your core and back to your center, so that you can then take that leap. And so the Fool's just one of my favorite cards, and I really do love the fact that it can't be anyone's soul card in particular, because it is everybody's card. This card is everybody all at once, all together, and it's just beautiful. I love that so much. So how can we work with the Fool? Since it is everybody's card, what is it that we can do if we're feeling the need to actually tap into that? So when I think of the Fool and thinking of all of those things that I just shared with you on the bits and pieces of how we make this happen, right? If, let's say, you know your soul card, but you're not feeling like you're connecting into the soul card in a way that you are feeling strong and confident and sure of it, that means that you can also look back into the Fool and kind of find a way to consider, okay, how do these two work together? Let's see. The Emperor just happens to be on the bottom, so we'll also pull the Emperor. Okay, so if the Emperor is your soul card, so we've got number 4, we can look at the things that are in common between the Fool and the Emperor if we want. Let's start there. So we have plenty of yellow and red in both of these cards. And so we can tap into, okay, as the Emperor, I'm having trouble taking the steps I feel like I need to take. How can the Fool help me there? Well, the Emperor is robed in red. So that means he's a very much a rooted, grounded person, right? They understand what it is that they belong to and where they want to go from here, right? They create structure. Now, the Fool also has that red in his undercurrent, but then he has the green and the yellow. There's a bit of yellow also in the Emperor, but it's not quite as prominent. So maybe it's finding a way to kind of pull into that shining bright, trusting your ability to show up, because the Emperor doesn't necessarily always feel like they should be someone who is flashy, who's seen. They more set the stage for other people to take action, right? They're taking the actions that pave the way for others. And they're not always the person who's super wanting to be acknowledged or recognized for what they're doing. But maybe that's where we're missing. We're missing the fact that we know what we're doing because we are good at what we do. And so trusting in that solar plexus area of like, sure, maybe I'm not being seen, but I'm not necessarily meant to be seen. I am meant to shine in the way that is right for me. And the people who need to see it will see it when the time is right. They will acknowledge me, but I need to keep doing my job. And so the two cards can play very well together of it's like, okay, yes, I'm doing this. And why am I doing this? Okay. And so if we're not feeling like ourselves, yes, we can tap into the different symbols that are on the card, but then also we can look at the Fool and ask the Fool for support. Okay, where am I not taking the jump and why am I not taking it? Where is it that it's lacking? And that's something that you can do anytime. If you want to connect deeper into your card or the Fool card or any particular card along the major arcana, let's say that because you know it's Scorpio season, you really want to invite the lessons that the Death card has for you, you can just pull the card out and put it down and just write either a letter to it, a letter from it. You can just journal about what you see and why you're seeing that and what's standing out on that card. And so the same thing, connect into your soul card. Pull your soul card out or pull the Fool out or pull whatever. Let's say, 10 of Cups is a really popular card for feeling like you have the emotional fulfillment that you need. Pull the 10 of Cups out. Write down what's standing out for you in this card and why is it standing out to you, and then have that help you, write out a path of like, what can I do to embody this card today? And just write, and see what comes from that. It's one of my favorite ways to connect to the cards and to connect to the wisdom that the cards have, is to actually look at it and then just free write until I can't write anymore, and then maybe try writing a little bit more. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just keep writing and seeing what happens. Even if it's just the same name of the card over and over again, something will end up slipping and shifting, and then you'll be able to kind of maybe dig a little bit deeper. That was the reason why I started with tarot in the first place, was because I was journaling and I felt like I couldn't get deeper into my own wisdom. And so then I'd pull a card and then I'd just write about what I saw from that card in relation to the question I had or the meditation I had just taken. And it's a visual map to help you get a little bit deeper into the information that maybe you're not wanting to look too closely at, right? And so if you're ever feeling like you're not understanding a card, or you want to get deeper into the card, or you know you like the message that card has, but you don't know how to embody it, go ahead and grab that card and just start writing. It really does help you connect. So that's my advice for today on that. Let's pull a card. Today I'm going to pull a card on how can we embody the journey we're trying to take when it comes to tapping into our intuition. Because for me, when we embody and we actually take it out of our thinking head and into our, but this is what I'm actually seeing in the world around me, then we're more likely to be able to understand it on a deeper level than if we're just thinking about it. That's why I recommend writing or speaking out loud, whatever it is that you're pulling, so that you can actually get past whatever mental blocks you might have. So the card that I pulled is the High Priestess, and I laughed because I asked, how can we get into this intuitive spiritual connection, right? And the High Priestess is all about our intuitive spiritual connection. So again, we've got some literalness here when we pulled our card. Now, when the High Priestess shows up, the High Priestess is connected to the moon, because the moon is where we normally think about our intuition, because the moon is a little bit more while the sun is bright and you can definitely see it, the moon is the reflection of the sun's light, and it's out at night. So it's a little bit more of a seeing what's out there, but also being able to filter it through another lens and being able to get the information in a different way. So if we're working on trying to embody the spiritual lessons that we are trying to learn and connect to, by trusting that the messages that are coming through when you're writing or when you're speaking it out loud or when you're going on a walk, like just when you're doing things and you've decided to not think about it, but instead trust the process, that is very High Priestess. That is very much okay, how can I get into this space of what is meant for me? Okay. And so my Priestess, we've got blue. Blue is our, so blue's normally with our throat chakra, and sometimes it's in our third eye space. So it's a lot of being able to just speak out what it is that we're thinking about, or it's able to take in the wisdom and the knowledge and just know things, right? And so we've got the moon at the bottom here, we've got our white with our spirituality, and we've got our pomegranates in the background. So being willing to trust that there is darkness, but we can gain information from it, right? And so when we're trying to figure out how to embody all of this, tapping into this wisdom and knowledge and trusting the process is the key. So there is a wonderful tarot pull. That's one of those times that you pull a card and you're like, thank you for giving me the most obvious answer. And this is when journaling would be really helpful, where we could actually say, okay, but what does that mean for me? And you can take this card and you can write it all out and actually tap into the High Priestess for yourself, which is highly recommended on these pulls, because while I am pulling for a broader collective, this theme will be good for everybody, but sometimes to be able to tap into what it means exactly for you, you got to dig a little deeper than what I am able to share on this podcast. So that is the message for today. Thank you for being here and learning about the Fool with me. If you have any questions or comments, I love to have things to respond to, so feel free to leave those below, and I will talk with you next week. Bye for now.